Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today, another edition of our inService podcast at Service Council. I am Gerardo Pelayo, the Chief Research Officer here, and I want to welcome you to a very exciting conversation that we're going to have today titled How Video Intelligence Turns Service Expertise into Scalable AI Knowledge. Really glad to have Thomas Cottereau, the CEO of SightCall, joining me today for that conversation. Thank you for being here, Thomas. We'll get to know you a little bit more in just a second, and looking forward to picking your brain on this very important and refreshing take on a very complex problem. So before I bring you into that, let me share a little bit of why we felt that this was an interesting topic, a necessary topic to address. We conduct every year our Voice of the Field Service Engineer. We get north of 2,500 responses every year from across the globe. And one of the interesting statistics that we saw in the last iteration of that survey was that 44% of the technicians that responded had been at their organization for less than 5 years. And this is not just young technicians, but actually over half of them are over 35 years old. And that tells me that there's two dynamics that are going on as we think about the talent crisis and the challenges with the knowledge that is leaving the organization, the expertise that is lost. On one hand, yes, there's people retiring, and some of the ones that are joining are not staying as long as we would like. But the other thing that is happening is not just the ones that are abandoning the profession as a whole, but it's also the ones that are moving to a different organization. And what that means, you need to get familiar once again with the systems, the data, the customer experience that you want to drive, the processes that you need to operate under, all of that tribal knowledge that it takes time to build up, that the companies invest in, and that is so necessary in order to drive the service experience that organizations strive for, and that ultimately lead to the results on from a growth, from an efficiency perspective that we aim for. So these dynamics make a problem that we've talked about for a long time, which is how do we make tribal knowledge an asset and not a liability, not a constraint, a more challenging problem, if you will. And as we think about what needs to happen from that perspective, we see that there's layers to the problem. The data is not just, hey, do I have good or bad data? You want it to be complete, you want it to be accurate, you want it to be structured in a way that makes it easy to use, and you want it to be trusted, which is not necessarily the same thing as being accurate. That incorporates the behavioral aspect of the technicians feeling trust in how the data was collected and how it is being presented, so that they can apply it in their day-to-day. And the last thing I'll say, I've been using this example recently, but there's a great book and there's a movie as well with it called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And within that, as we think about the whole incorporation of artificial intelligence in the service ecosystem, one of the characters is this super intelligent robot. And in one of the scenes, he's complaining, does something like, man, I've got the brain the size of a planet, and what they're putting me to do is taking people from one place to the other. Paraphrasing a little bit, but that does raise the question of, are we underutilizing some of the technological capabilities, some of the art of the possible, because we haven't dared or haven't had the time, the opportunity to think differently about the challenges that we need to address and the best ways that we have to tackle them. So how do we get smarter about that? That's where we're going to focus today. A little bit of a housekeeping reminder that today's conversation is going to be recorded, so you can go back to it, share with your colleagues, and it's available in all of our usual channels, our LinkedIn, our website, as well as anywhere that you listen to the podcast. So with that behind us, Thomas, let me get back to you. I've had a chance to meet you for quite some time. Thank you for being a member of our Solutions Advisory Board at Service Council and helping advance the conversation. But for those who don't know you that much, can you provide a little bit of an introduction to yourself and SightCall?
Yeah, hi Gerardo, happy to be there today with you again. Quick background. So I'm originally from France. I'm an engineer by background, but also an entrepreneur by passion. I spent most of my career at the intersection between telecommunication, video, AI, and enterprise software. Um, I moved to the US. I'm based in the Bay Area 13 years ago, and happy to live in California now. What has always fascinated me is how technology can augment humans, right? Not replace them, but really bring us some additional insight. And with the evolution of the communication infrastructure, and then the smartphones, the camera, the cloud, and now the AI, we really realized that something important was happening. And that video was not just a communication channel, but it was also a way to gather operational intelligence. So that's why at SightCall, we started with remote video support to help, see and guide remotely. So we started with field service, customer service, insurance. Basically, all industries were seeing the problem changes everything. And then over time, we realized that the bigger opportunity was not just helping solve one issue remotely, but really capturing expertise at scale and then turn it into reusable knowledge.
Yeah, no, that helps a lot. It paints a really interesting picture about the evolution of the journey that SightCall has had as well, and definitely speaks to the problem I was mentioning. But let me double click on some of the things that you mentioned. First, setting that baseline of video and the underlying problem that you started with. I referenced this the voice of the field service engineer study that we conduct every year. And another one of the insights that comes from that is what do technicians do when they get stuck during during a problem. What same thing with remote support, and we see that over half, 54%, continue to call a colleague as one of their top strategies within this. A lot of investments around the knowledge base, around different ways to provide support, and this person-to-person interaction continues to be their go-to strategy. Is this something that you're also observing as you go out across your customers, across prospects in the industry in general, that it continues to be a pain point?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is still how the world works, right? Uh, if you look backward, what did we do? We digitized field service, but in many ways, we also removed some of the moments where expertise was naturally shared, right?
Mhm.
We replaced manuals with PDF. We replaced morning discussion with dispatchers by work orders in field service management software. Is it more efficient? Yes, sure. But we also removed some of the human layer where technicians exchanged insights, tricks, warnings, and real-world experiences. Though now most organizations then added some AI chatbot trained on manuals and documentation, right? And the goal of that was to create kind of an expert in your pocket, right? So that you can have it with you, and when you go on site, you got it, and you know that you get covered. But still today, the team still calls some colleagues. So why? Why do they do that? I think for two main reasons. First, because they trust people who have actually done the job, right? So you showed in the survey that 54% of technicians still call or text a colleague when stuck. I think that's not resistance to AI. That's a signal that expertise is contextual, it's practical, and it's also trust-based. So for me, the reality is simple. AI is only as good as the data you feed it with, right? And most AI systems today are trained on static documentation. But the real expertise lives in what technicians see, hear, test, and solve in the field every day. And that's what we call the tribal knowledge. And it is still today massively undocumented. So, you made an analogy to robots in your introduction. It's funny because for me, there's one movie that stopped me, was named The Wild Robot. I don't know if you've seen this one. So that's this robot that is in the jungle with animals. And he has, if you recall that, at a time in the movie, close to the beginning, he has to switch to the learning mode. So he puts himself in the field, switch to learning mode, so his eyes and ears can see and watch what's happening around, and he's learning. So he stays like that during a couple of hours or days, and then switch back on, and okay, now he learned because he saw how they interact, and then he can go and follow the rabbit, right? I think this learning mode here, that's sometimes what's missing in the transmission of the knowledge, right? How can we capture this knowledge, this expertise? How can we share it without having to spend 2 years in a ride along with an expert? I think that's the problem that we're trying to fix.
Yeah, no, I really like it, and I see this comment from John. I know it's long, so let me summarize how I believe it maps to the conversation, which is we're doing it not just because we can, but because it's needed. And you raised a really critical point there. In the data, yes, it has to be available, and there's a lot of this contextual data that is not yet documented. But how do you make it so that people also trust that data? So it needs to be there, but it needs to be trusted. Otherwise, it's just an interesting science experiment, but not something that will actually bring value to this. And yeah, you got some very nice kudos there from John, and I would agree. I like the keeping up with the times that SightCall has had over the years. But one of the things that you also mentioned is when you talked about this evolution, you said something that struck me of seeing the problem changes everything. And I wrote it down as you were doing your own introduction. And we see some similar perception from the field. When we ask about the different technologies and do you have a positive, negative perception, live video support, even augmented reality capabilities, essentially that concept of seeing the problem tends to be something that they appreciate. The investments that we've seen and how high it ranks in the priority of service leaders is something that perhaps has fluctuated a little bit more than what the field would appreciate. Since you have a lot of expertise around this, and before we jump into this new use case, can you maybe expand on some of the trade-offs of video and versus other ways of engaging the front line? Why is it that seeing the problem changes everything?
I'll give you one or two numbers. That's interesting facts. The studies show that human brain processes visual information 60,000 times faster than text, right? 60,000 times. That's how your brain works. Other ones show that people retain roughly 10% of what they hear after 3 days, but around 65% when information is paired with relevant visuals. So here's the last one. Did you know that 90% of the information transmitted to the brain, 90% is visual, right? So that's how we grew up. That's how we learned. That's this big AGI trend in AI that is not there today, but where new AI systems try to learn as humans, right? Where the current system, the LLMs, they learn by ingesting the digital data from the internet. So I think that's the next step. That's where we are trying to go. So the video into that. The reason video adoption lagged in history, right? Why? Because when you know this statistic, when you know how our brain works, it should be everywhere, right? And when I started SightCall, I thought that we'll bring video, and it's going to be absolutely everywhere. And it's still lagging, right? So I think there are historical reasons for this friction. First, from my background, I come from the telecommunication. Think of the fact that telco today, even today in 2026, right? You can have a phone call on AT&T. Can you have a video call with AT&T? No, still not today, right? Not just AT&T, all of them, right? Verizon and the others. You still need an app, right? In this app, you need a download, you need permissions, you need to have a login, you have to get some credentials, everything there, right? So that I think that's the first friction point, in history. And the same thing happened again with AI, where out of this AI and generative AI transformation started with LLM, large language model, not visual language model, language, right? So, and maybe the last point is that because we have this background, because we have this history, so culturally people were a bit uncomfortable turning their camera on, this kind of stuff. I think we went over this point with the post-COVID, right? We are now in a stage where even people expect video, right? In field service specifically, everyone now understands the value of see what I see, right? If I can see the machine, the environment, the part, then the troubleshooting becomes dramatically faster. Now is the point of, the guidance, right? And over the year, we also worked on adding augmented reality. And here's what happened. That's expected, right? If you see what the problem is, you want to help the person remotely. But AR, VR kind of struggled over the year to scale. There was too much implementation effort, too much customization, too much friction for everyday operation. But and funny enough, in a lot of the experimentation that we've done by testing with user testing, a simple video tutorial most of the time highly outperformed some sophisticated AR experiences. So with that said, I'm not bullish. I'm still bullish on AR in the long term, right? I think that the visual AI will change the game. And with this visual AI, I know that we can recognize, object, parts, equipment. Then we'll bring AR back into the scene, but in this context of AI.
And no, that's very enlightening. That's why I love to have an expert in the area talk about this, because intuitively video makes sense, but some of the statistics that you share, some of the studies, it's really eye-opening, right? And as we often make the conversation of, hey, we got to meet the customer where they are, we got to meet the front line where they are. Well, this becomes part of it, right? What are the channels that are going to be most effective, most intuitive, and influence many of the things that we want to drive in the overall experience, like that retention of knowledge, and therefore the satisfaction, the perception that you're properly being, that your experience is being augmented indeed, and not just more things being added your way. So let me move on to the next question, and specifically on the core topic of today, which is this shift in how video gets utilized, because you just explained how video has been part of the technology platform for a while in service, tribal knowledge and capturing that tacit knowledge has been a challenge for long as well. So neither of this is new, but the way in which you're approaching it, I believe it is. Can you maybe double click with some specific examples, some of the ways in which AI is creating this new bridge of expanding the definition of how video technology can be leveraged to support some of the challenges that we've talked about so far?
Let me take an example, right? Where when you're standing in front of a machine after 2 hours of troubleshooting, right? Imagine now, put yourselves in the shoes of a field engineers, and you tried everything you knew, and still don't get it. I think at this stage, you don't want a chatbot asking you, hey, how can I help you today, right? No, you already did all of these things. So what you want at this stage is true contextual expertise. You want to know, has someone seen this exact issue before? And then what did they do? What did they try to fix it? What actually worked? And that's where this tribal knowledge matter, right? During the COVID, I rebuilt a motorcycle with my son in the garage. I knew nothing about mechanics. I just did it with YouTube videos, always finding someone who did it before me. And I think that's the key point, this notion of tribal knowledge. How can we learn from the other experts? And the interesting part right now with AI is that we can capture this knowledge in different places with different people and share it to the rest of the organization, right? And there's always this question of the capture of this knowledge, right? Why is it so hard to capture? And I think it's hard to capture because, we are humans. We're not just a database, right? Even, experts, you, me, we don't even realize what we know, right? We learn by doing, by failing, by trying again, by watching other ones. And you cannot capture that by asking engineers to document what they know during their free time. It does not work. It never scales. So the only way to capture this type of knowledge is on the job, is when the work happens, using video, audio, text, and operational context all together. I think it's the mix of media. That's what in AI we call multimodal, right? Because we need to understand what matters, right? Because I think it really matters at the end, because the workforce challenge is real. As you mentioned, in your introduction, with this wave of new engineers, with the fact also that we don't structure our career the way it was done 50 years ago. Now people would go from one company to another, and you cannot again spend these 2 years of trainings for a new tech who will stay with you 3 years, right? So there's this stat that you mentioned, that nearly 40% of field technicians are expected to retire within the next decade. So if we don't capture this expertise from them, then the companies are literally losing this operational memory every day. I think it's going even beyond the operational day-to-day point. It becomes strategic for companies.
Yeah, and if I could supplement, I believe the inflection point from AI really comes from that, emphasizing the taking it to scale and being able to follow through. We could have always asked the senior technicians to record videos, to document, to do all these sorts of things, but then how to organize that, structure it in a way that is easy to consume, that it's consistent, that it's vetted, becomes very hard. And I think those are the gates that AI has now made possible. And as we learn of how to do it better, to me, that's the drastic shift that we couldn't do a couple of years ago, and now it becomes part of that uh, realm of possibilities. But
You
yeah,
you know,
go ahead.
Gerardo, one point, because I think you're touching a very important topic, is what we can do today that we could not do in the past.
Mhm.
Uh, the we know that video as an input really works, right? That's what we want. We want to see, okay, how others did it before, but producing video in the past was very expensive and did not scale. The most common way was to hire an
Mhm.
agency, would come on site. It would take literally several weeks to 1 month to create one video tutorial. Would cost you between $15,000 to $20,000. It's painful. It does not scale, and you cannot go with that. What changes everything right now is the fact that AI can finally structure this video automatically. What we built as SightCall with a platform, we ingest them, we analyze them, we create what we call some knowledge graph, where we map the knowledge together by parts, by type of equipment, by type of service. And then from there, we automatically generate these step-by-step how-to tutorials with multimedia information in there. So we mix, text, voice, video snippets, and even image that we automatically generate with auto annotation on the image. And what our customers, the feedback that we have, what they tell us is that these tutorials that are self-generated are 90 to 95% production ready. So there's still a human review, and we recommend it. Just
Mhm.
review what the AI has generated there. But again, think about the fact that we use AI as a tool, not as the knowledge hub. The knowledge comes from this capture, right? And then we transform it automatically. The human can review on literally, because sometimes there's few acronyms that are very specific to a business, so it needs to be curated, and then push it automatically.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you double clicked on that. Uh, Quick follow up, just to provide clarity into how this would actually work. As you've had this conversation with in the market, where would the capture of video itself? Where do you expect it to yield the greatest value? Is it in the moment of service? Is it during the what we call the windshield time after the service has occurred? How do you expect that video to be captured?
Yeah, so we started our journey with some customers by capturing the video assistance calls, right? Because that's where SightCall comes from. We are a video assistance
Hmm.
provider, so that was the natural source of data. And then, based on feedback from our customers and the first users of the platform, they shared the fact that, okay, we should extend this capture of information, this video capture, because not every process or service maintenance would be completely described in a video call. So what we've done is also open up the platform to ingest any other type of video from different sources. So where the most common that we see today are on two sides that again was unexpected from my part when we launched this product, but that's what we see in the field today. One is by recording the trainer, right? So you know that when you have kind of a formal training on a
Hmm.
machine, 90% of what you were trained for is already forgotten, a few days later. And if you face this problem 2 years later, you did not see it for the first 2 years, and then you hit this problem. Well, you're going to have a hard time to remember, what was showed to you 2 years ago. So that's why, again, capturing this session But nobody, again, it's a matter of format and the output. Nobody wants to watch again, these 2 hours long training session. But again, extracting the core moment, the process, and having small searchable, video snippet that you can walk through are absolutely key. So that's really one that we've seen working great on capturing this training.
Mm-hmm.
On the other one that, again, was really unexpected, this one was during the onboarding of a new technician, during the ride-along, or some would call them shadowing session. Some started to ask, the new engineers to record, to film the senior experts when they were explaining them how to do something. So that this, again, creates some expertise that this new employee can come back to in the future. And it's also becoming part of the collective knowledge of the enterprise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, there's this one point that was mentioned by Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, at the World Forum in Davos earlier this year. Here's what he said, and I think that's important. He said, if your firm is not able to embed the tacit knowledge of the firm in a set of weight, in a model that you control, by definition, you have no sovereignty. That means you're leaking enterprise value to some model company somewhere. So I think here we're touching a very, very strategic point, right? Don't let the knowledge leave out the door
Mm-hmm.
with your senior expert getting to retirement. Collect it, protect it, and share it within your organization. I think that's a strategic point for all enterprise, all service organization today.
Yeah. No, so couple of quick reactions to that, because it hits on many of the pain points that we see across service. One is the onboarding experience feels like it got stuck in the 90s, and the example that you just walked through is a way in which that onboarding experience, which has a long-term impact, can actually be leveraged over time, and as you said, become part of the organizational knowledge. And the other is data quality, where we still see that over 25 of the service leaders that responded to Service Leaders Agenda this year said that it's one of the three biggest barriers to slowing down progress on their top initiatives. So adding video intelligence as a way to better capture the data, to build that organizational knowledge and achieve the completeness, the trust, it's a way to actually tackle some of the strategic challenges, which is, how do I reduce my technical debt? How do I increase the ROI from my AI and digital deployments in general, right? Because they're all going to depend on that underlying data, on that contextual knowledge that is captured. So bringing all this together, and it's been I insist, very enlightening, the descriptions that you've shared. Are there any final pre-requirements, qualifiers, or lessons learned that we haven't touched on, and you would like to highlight for the audience as organizations are trying to figure out, how do I get value from this video intelligence?
Maybe one, which is the key important lesson. Start collecting these visual service knowledge now, right? Not next year, but now, because every expert leaving the company without capturing their knowledge is a permanent operational loss.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that company need to stop treating knowledge as documentation, right? But they have to start treating it as a strategic asset for the company. I strongly believe that your operational expertise is one of the few truly defensible assets in the AI era, and that it's strategic. So then once the visual and contextual knowledge is properly captured and structured, then you can use it everywhere, right? I'm a strong believer also of using it in the workflow. So in your knowledge management system, learning management system, CRM, field service management software, Copilot, agentic AI system, that's the model where this knowledge hub can be connected to your entire ecosystem. So don't start a very specific project and say, oh shoot, I took the wrong direction. I did not have that. That's not a problem, because you can have plenty of different systems that all take advantage of this additional knowledge hub that you can connect to. So maybe to wrap up, I'll give you one deployment that we've done with a customer where they wanted to use it proactively, not just reactively. So on the way it has been done is by connecting this expert knowledge to their field service management software, so that when they have a dispatch, so work order tomorrow on this type of equipment for this type of maintenance, automatically the question is asked to the expert knowledge, and we prompt directly the work order into, the tutorial into the work order, so that even before going on site, I can watch how other senior experts did it before me, and I can go there ready. I can go there confident. It changed everything. It changed the dynamic. It changed the success rate. It improves sort of the efficiency. The employee satisfaction is growing strongly because they feel much more confident. And of course, the customer satisfaction as well. Everything comes together.
Yeah, no, I really like that. It's this closed loop mindset, right? Of getting better at the consumption of, but also leveraging it as an input to continue fitting the loop and the follow through. So I'm positive that this is a wider set of applications that we'll continue to be talking about in the near and middle term. I personally look forward to seeing you at the Smarter Services Executive Symposium this year. Thank you again for being part of our Solutions Advisory Board there. Before we wrap up, any personal thing that you want to share with the audience, any passion project within or outside of work about Thomas himself?
Outside of work, well, I like kind of extreme sports, right? I'm big on skiing, snowboarding, mountain biking, everything with speed, precision, skills, concentration, where everything comes together and where you kind of feel alive very quickly, because you cannot really mess up, right? So I think that's also why I like entrepreneurship and technology, same type of adrenaline. And if I look forward, next thing, I'm looking forward for the next free diving jump with my daughter, or another motorcycle track day with my son. So kind of good adrenaline to come.
Good. See, that's why you find the opportunities. You always need to have your eyes open out there. So that's a great way to wrap up. Thomas, once again, thank you for joining us in the studio today. Thank you for our listening audience. I know we went a couple of minutes over, but I believe the conversation deserved to be fully fleshed out. And as a reminder, today's podcast was recorded, so you can revisit it. Looking forward to see you in our next edition, and have a great rest of the week. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Gerardo. Thank you, everyone.